All right, you are live. Peace and great blessings, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And happy Wednesday out there, everyone. And tonight we're going to be talking about the summer solstice, which is quickly approaching us, starting on next week. And we have our beloved guest with us this evening, Brother Mikuak Rai. Give thanks for your presence and your timelessness.
Thank you so much, Queen Tamara. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and to share in this momentous preparation as you say, get ready for the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere.
Yes,
Right.
and thank you for your presence. So we're going to talk about it, and it's something that I observe since I've been striving to live in harmony with nature. So I observe and celebrate, if you will, the solstices and the equinox and other cosmic events. But the summer solstice is a time of prosperity and abundance, the fullness of goals and blessings. And so the winter solstice is more of a time of renewal and going within. And I think the summer solstice for me is a time of just reaping the abundance and the goals and the things that you planted or prepared in the spring. So, would you like to share with our listening audience what the summer solstice is? And, first, also tell them a little bit about yourself as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And about myself, I consider myself a creative artist. I've been involved in the musical arts and community organizing for several years. Probably one of my most prominent passions is promoting a 13-month, 28-day calendar, the 13 moon calendar, helping people return to a consciousness or an awareness of natural time.
Yes.
Um, and as far as the solstice is concerned, I do agree it's a time of celebrating what we have been able to bring to bounty, right? It's
Mhm.
celebrating the beauty that's
Mhm.
present, particularly coming to the fullness in the summer. And we know that that's the highest point for the summer solstice, where our earth is tilting toward the sun at its
Mhm.
maximum peak. And then it
Mhm.
begins its descent, essentially, or decline back to the other end of the spectrum of the balance of that with the winter solstice 6 months
Correct.
later. So it's just a beautiful representation of the natural cycles and timing that
Mhm.
we get to experience being in the body on
Mhm.
Earth, and it's something that we've known about for millennia in our
Mhm.
DNA, in our cultures, in our bones, in our blood. Our ancestors have observed these natural phenomena as well,
Mhm.
as long as memory holds, right? So
Yeah.
we know that these are some of our most distant and ancient memories, is a recognition and an honoring veneration to the sun, especially, and the moon and the other celestial bodies with
Mhm.
which we're in a relationship. So the summer solstice definitely invites us to be conscious of that relationship. It's consistent. It recurs annually, obviously, and it is an
Mhm.
opportunity to celebrate and venerate.
Yes. Okay. Great. Absolutely. And the summer solstice. Many people think that is just the first day of summer, and is much more than that. So can you talk about what we were talking about a little bit earlier, how it's peak in the morning on that day, and what the solstice means in natural time?
Well, that's a great question. So we have what we observe as the natural seasons, particularly in places where we see the variation of weather according to the quarters of the year.
Mhm.
So in many ways, the solstice is the indicator for the beginning of the summer season, and it is at that point where we're facing the sun in that tilt, particularly in the northern hemisphere for us. Now, those in the southern hemisphere are obviously at the opposite, so they find themselves the furthest from the sun in their relative orientations. So they're going to experience winter at the same time. So as we're celebrating, for example, our summer solstice in the north, we know that that's a part of the natural phenomena of the turning of our planet. And that our relatives in the south are on the opposite pole of that experience. Now, during the equinox, of spring and autumn, that signals a time where the energies are more in an equilibrium, or
Mhm.
equidistant, or that kind of a balance. Uh, Yet this period now is the beginning of the summer season. It's a time for the celebration of what has come to fulfillment, as you mentioned, when we plant the seeds in the winter during the period of introspection.
Mhm.
This brings us to the opportunity to celebrate and actually venerate and acknowledge
Mhm.
life at its fullness. And then we
Right.
begin to appreciate then what has been generated, and we enjoy it through the remainder of the year until such time as again we return into the winter solstice energy eventually to
Mhm.
again plan and renew and prepare for what we're now getting a chance to celebrate. And I think we also can observe, personal as well as from a planetary scale, we can see what the human family has been navigating through. And
Mhm.
it is a very important time to make conscious our human connection to each other. That's why when in the summertime we find celebration and festivals and reasons to come together as community. So it is a great invitation as well to observe and celebrate who is in your tribe and your community of heart and mind, even if that at this moment they may be distant, like you and I. We're part of
Mhm.
community, and yet here we are digitally connected. But it's that web of connection that I think really
Mhm.
comes to life, particularly in the north at the time of summer.
Right.
Um, yeah, so it's just a great thing, I think. And also how this relates to natural time is, as with the lunar cycle of 28 days, or
Mhm.
as with the gestation of 260 days, uh, the solstices and equinoxes are the quartering of the year. So they divide the timing of our orbit around the sun up, specifically in that sort
Mhm.
of account, where there are approximately 91 days per season. Now, if you look at the seasonal count of that, then you quarter that. 91 times 4 is 364, plus
Mm.
1, which is the culmination or the completion of the natural timing cycle generally. So it's a
Okay.
general observation, because we also know that the solstice will incrementally vary from the 20th of June to the 22nd or even 23rd of June, depending upon the year. It
Mhm.
just so happens that this year it's on the 21st, right? Which is the average generally.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. I always thought it was always on the 21st. Okay.
Yeah, there's a tendency that it can shift
Mhm.
ever so slightly just
Okay.
between those couple of days. So it's just kind of consider that phase for the solstice as well as the equinoxes.
Mhm.
Um, but again, it's just the idea that it's that transitional period
Mhm.
into something of a more expression in nature right now, because it's warm. We want to be outside and connect with nature and the waters, and really be expressive in that way. And that's what's really being invited, to beautify, to express. And I know
Yes.
some of what we want to talk about is kind of what can we do to even prepare
Yes.
and approach the solstice in a very meaningful way.
Absolutely. So the
Yeah.
next thing, the summer solstice is also the longest day of the year. This is the day out of the year that we're receiving the longest period of sunlight. So the day is longer, the night is shorter. And so to me, this is a reminder of for us to remember to take in as much sunlight as we can, stay illuminated in our soul on a spiritual level. And the sun's rays being the source of light on our planet, to me, is symbolic of the divine light that's within us. So to me, the solstice is a time of honoring and remembering that we are that light, and that the sun, the source of light, is what sustains all of us on the planet. So it kind of makes me also think about how to preserve the planet more
Hmm.
in on this longest day. But what do you think about that?
Well, when I hear you say the word solstice, the immediate word sound I hear is soul. So we
Yeah,
know the Spanish word for sun is sol,
so
el
yeah.
sol, right?
Mhm,
SOL. And solstice is relating to the sun and
mhm,
its declination. Uh, and at the same time, it's reflective of our soul, as in our consciousness. And
mhm,
I feel that right now, what we're welcoming in this season is a time of greater consciousness, greater coming to awareness,
mhm,
both individually and collectively. And a lot due to this initiation we've collectively been navigating the past couple of years,
Mhm.
But there have been other points of preparation that preceded that as well. And so, one of the beautiful opportunities about the solstice is to venerate the past,
Mhm.
observe the present, and anticipate the future. In other words, create the future directly. So it's a kind of a coming together also in that longest day, as you say, or in the shortest time, because a similar principle will apply for those in the winter solstice experience. While in
Mhm.
the north we're celebrating the summer and the coming to, in the winter it's entering the cave, it's going into that longest night versus
Sure.
the longest day, and yet the past, the present, and the future are still something we're called to make aware and to be aware of, to just be able to appreciate the progress or the initiation, whatever it is we've been navigating.
Mhm.
I think as we tend to look at that more, we've all been, and can better appreciate we've been experiencing some collective initiation.
Absolutely. Yes. So, in preparation for the solstice, what are some things that you suggest or that you do to prepare?
Thank you. One of the things I've been contemplating, I was speaking with my partner about today, in fact, is to enjoin the solstice probably with like a 3-day fast,
Okay.
just to really create a more of a receptivity to the energy. Like you mentioned, it's the longest day. We have the
Mhm.
most access to light, and
Yes.
light is our life force. It is, the prana, the power, the potency of the chi, the electromagnetic energy, the plasma of the sun is very much what we want to develop a relationship with now, as we learn more about making things conscious, then really taking advantage of that. And so being able to engage that, I think, is best served by deliberately fasting, probably, and I wouldn't say extreme fasting necessarily, but certainly fasting on fruits, at least, if not juices, and just, as much as one needs to stay
Yes.
hydrated adequately, because it's also the hottest time of the year, or entering
Mhm.
the peak season of heat, especially because there's been a national heat wave happening right now. So we want to
Oh,
encourage
is
people
it?
to stay
Oh, okay.
hydrated. Yeah, on the West Coast in particular, it's been just really really extreme the past week. So
Okay.
just with awareness to that, encouraging people to stay hydrated, but
Mhm.
finding a way to really fast and cleanse for greater receptivity, so that as you're engaging with the sun on the solstice, I invite people to really meet the sunrise that day and bring their conscious awareness to it. Because in meeting it at that time of day, you can actually observe and look directly at the sun
Mhm.
without harming your eyes or damaging yourself, and from its incredible heat later in the day. But to be able to do some sun gazing either in the early rising that day or toward the balance in the evening,
Mhm.
finding yourself in a place where you can actually engage with that directly is highly recommended on the solstice.
Mhm.
Similarly, in certain sacred places, the buildings are situated, particularly for equinox, in certain temples in the Maya
Yes.
territory. There's buildings situated for engaging the equinox points in Chichen Itza, for example, in the Yucatan, where at the zenith of the sun, the serpent will appear in the
Mhm.
form of
I've
the
heard.
shadow descending down the side of the El Castillo, the great pyramid in Chichen Itza. Um, but similarly, with the solstice times, certain markers will show a balance of a balance effect, or sort of the transitional effect, even uh, with their interrelationship with the light. And
Mhm.
so it's just important to understand that we are light, and so at peak moments like this, we can become even more attuned, intentionally, consciously, coherently with the energetic field.
Mhm.
And by doing that, we're also helping direct the intention that we have into the moons to follow, because we're moving into a time of greater fullness, right?
Mhm.
Until we hit the autumn, where things begin to decline. Things begin to shift in a more beautiful or magnificent way. It continues, but then it declines into the winter.
Mhm.
So it's just a chance to really direct the energy that we celebrate on June 21st, according to the Gregorian calendar, as it's known, largely the solstice being June 21st. This year, in the natural time calendar, the solstice occurs very synchronistically on the day called Kin 34.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say Kin 34, it's 34 out of 260 different days in the Zulkin calendar. So the
Okay.
Zulkin calendar reflects the gestation period in the womb. So it's a measure for gestation in the womb, for the fullness of any creative cycle. That's how it's observed in natural time. And so that day is auspicious because it's the same kin or signature as the very first day of the natural time calendar 35
Okay.
years ago. So that basically means that on July 26, 1987, the kin was 34. And
Mm-hmm.
on June 21st, 2022, the kin will be again kin 34.
So it's been a complete. How many years is that cycle? 35 year. You
Been a
said 35
35-year cycle.
cycle.
It would complete as 35 on the basically 25th of this year. But
Okay.
because it's interesting, because it's 34 and it's completing the 34th year and then beginning
Mm,
the 35th. So the synchronicities of number are pretty profound how they interlace and overlap.
yes.
34 years, kin 34. We're entering the 35th year, and you do the basic calculation 3 plus 5 for numerology is 8, and 8 is the galactic tone. And the day of our solstice, or rather, our summer solstice this year is the galactic tone. It's the white galactic wizard, kin 34.
White galactic wizard. Okay.
Yeah, and that was the kin number on July 26, 1987, that initiated what's called the wizard's count. So
Oh,
to the
okay.
Maya, the idea of a wizard or the shaman quality was very central to the community, right? In divination or guidance to the community or an awareness of the mysteries, of the mathematics, of the star knowledge. This is
Mm-hmm.
what they are dealing with primarily.
Mm-hmm.
So tracking these cycles as phenomena or natural timing, as it were. So there's a beautiful synchronicity in knowing that this June
Yes.
21st is also the quality of the beginning of the new time
Mm-hmm.
of the galactic Maya. So it's a
Great.
pretty big deal. But it's beautiful because here we are 34 years. We'll be wrapping that this year in Kin 34 in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very special. And today is Kin 28, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we're Kin 28 today.
And what month? What's the moon this
We're
moon?
in the crystal moon
The
in the
crystal
current
moon is what I
year.
thought.
We're in the yellow electric seed year,
Year, yes.
which is the 34th year, and we're in the 12th moon, okay, which
Yeah.
is the crystal moon, and then
Crystal moon.
we're currently on day 17
Day 17.
of the crystal moon. So
Of the
this would be
crystal
called gamma 17, and
moon.
gamma
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the name given to the third day of the 7-day sequence. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so
Great.
there's a lot in that, but the beauty is it's actually just the synchronicity and the indication of the arrangement, the beauty of the
Mm-hmm.
timing of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even as we look upon the world and we see this tremendous initiation we're going through,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always appear beautiful on the surface, and of course it's not. And there's a lot of
True.
trauma and there's a lot of drama, and yet there is a through line in all creation of beauty. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incumbent upon us to hold to that and to not only make beauty, create beauty, but find the beauty even in any situation to
Mm-hmm.
some degree. That's part of the path and part of the initiatory process is to be able to
Mm-hmm.
observe, but then also find the meaning and the purpose or the synchronicity behind the things we may experience individually and collectively.
Very good.
Mhm.
Excellent. That was a powerful statement. We were talking about, you mentioned the synchronicity, and I noticed that the summer is a very powerful time of year as far as the cosmic and galactic energies and portals and things. For example, the planetary new year is next month in the Gregorian calendar. Well, the month of July 26th. And then we have the Lions Gate portal, which will start opening soon and culminating in August, and the solstice, the summer solstice, and there's something else that takes place. And the heliacal rising of Sirius, which
Yeah.
is starts sometime in July as well. So
Yes.
summer is this time where all these powerful energies are aligning and opening. Is there anything you could does the solstice connect to any of those in any way that you're aware of?
It absolutely does. Yeah. So because we're tracking, when we track natural time, we're tracking multiple cycles. So there's a
Okay.
connection between the solstice cycle, for example, and then the observable heliacal rising of Sirius, as you mentioned. Traditionally,
Hmm.
that's regarded around the date July 25th, 26th. In
Okay.
that time, that's why in the 13 moon calendar, that signals the beginning of that cycle,
Hmm.
because it's anchored to or centered around the rising of Sirius. And there are other traditions from around the world that similarly will observe Sirius as the center point to their calendar system or
Hmm.
their astronomical study as well.
Yes.
So now this is something that has not been made as conscious to the modern and Western world. I mean, a lot of this knowledge has been hidden for a very long time or kept in mystery schools. And
Yes.
now, in our period, since the new time in 1987, we've been experiencing a greater acceleration and a revealing of a lot of the mystery information. That's why we find many authors emerging and many teachers in our time,
Hmm.
through a variety of traditions, coming with various perspectives on the truth, right? And the truth being the consciousness beyond what we've been made to believe we are. So
Hmm.
a lot of this, as far as I'm concerned, by tracking these natural timing cycles, we're being made more aware of the interconnectedness of all things. So when we observe the solstice, we can observe that in 1987, the new time was literally anchored in June 23rd, which would have been kin 1 on that 260-day cycle I was talking about that begins the Zolkin, the gestation period.
Hmm.
So kin 1 was aligned with the window of solstice at
Hmm.
that time. So it essentially signals the beginning of the new time. So
Hmm.
solstice is very significant in the fact that as its solar alignment and arrangement is concerned, it's intricately involved in then informing a galactic um, upgrade, we may say, for
Hmm.
our entire consciousness and timing systems.
Hmm.
So, and it would happen in our lifetime that the timing would be such that if kin 1, Red Magnetic Dragon, is June 23rd, 1987, that kin 34, July 26th, 1987, is the Galactic Wizard. As I said, that 34. So there's 34 days there. Now, interestingly, here we are 34 years later, and we see the connection because kin 34 now shows up on the actual
Hmm.
current year solstice. So that's an interesting synchronicity to observe, that 34 years later, kin 34 is lined up on the solstice day.
Hmm.
When 34 years ago, kin 1 was initiated around the solstice,
Hmm.
which was the initiation of the so called new time or the natural time movement, as it were. And all of that to say, that's what introduced into consciousness the 13 moon calendar and a lot of the uh, coherence around the galactic scope of what the Maya were pointing to in a lot of their
Hmm.
timekeeping systems. So not all of the Maya necessarily would attribute themselves as being galactic per se.
Hmm.
Some they acknowledge a relationship with star knowledge, and yet some kind of also observe the traditional long count as specific to the Earth, which is one lens among the multitude of lenses the Maya use. But of particular import is the galactic perspective that the Maya mathematics and the art and the codices expand our awareness of. and about. That's a very
Mhm.
important thing, because before now it has not been something we've been aware of as a species. And largely we've been operating under the Gregorian calendar as the dominant theme, so we haven't even begun to appreciate the importance of calendars or understand the effect of calendars on our consciousness.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a little of my sense on it in terms of that relationship. But
Mhm.
there is that direct, as I said, that anchor to that 34-day window from 1987, where the solstice energy triggered and initiated then what has become the wizard's count of the
Mm.
natural time calendar. You know,
That's
and
great.
yeah, and that also signaled the completion of a very important prophecy in the Maya tradition, which
Mhm.
was the 13 heavens and 9 hell cycles. So this
Mhm.
was a count of basically 13 um, 52-day cycles, or 52-year cycles rather, and 9 52-year cycles. So
Mhm.
13 heaven and 9 hells. The 9 hell 52-year cycles were said to have completed with the harmonic convergence of 1987. And so that's another significant event, as you said. When we look at the summertime, it's like back to back to back to back alignments, because not only do you have the Lionsgate 8-8, but then the following week, every year, there's the anniversary of the harmonic convergence,
Mhm.
which we just celebrated. Yeah, this will be the 35th observation of that important event, the first globally synchronized meditation of its kind. And
Okay, the
that
harmonic convergence is what time this year?
it's August 16th and
Oh,
17th.
okay.
That's the anniversary of it.
Okay.
And so this year will be 35 years since that event took place in 1987.
Okay.
And, it was one of those seminal events that really catalyzed our collective consciousness, whether we know it or not. I mean, the fact is, it happened, and it has triggered several other things that we are aware of to some degree or not, that do, have impacted us. So part of the journey, I think, is also regaining consciousness and understanding the connection of some of these events,
Mm-mm.
because similarly we were also collectively impacted by the activation of the atomic bombs in
Mhm.
1945.
Mhm.
And yet we don't necessarily see that impact today, but understand it affect the collective. So
Mhm.
several years later, in 1987, when this many, over a million people, came together on one day to synchronize in prayer and meditation all over the world, that effect had the power, really, of more power than an atomic bomb,
Mhm.
multiple times more. There's a famous
Okay.
saying, I don't remember the elder's name, but with the prayer vigil for the earth in Washington, D.C., that used to happen. I don't know if you ever attended.
Yes. Yeah, they've done. I haven't been to one in a while, but I know what you're talking about.
And there's a statement they used to have as some of the theme for the prayer vigil, that one sincere prayer has more power than an atomic bomb.
Mhm.
And so as we enter the solstice, it's an opportunity for us to really, through fasting and clearing and tuning, to really crystallize our intention, so that
Yes.
the sunlight, as it enters our consciousness, can activate that crystal consciousness that we're maintaining, and
Mhm.
will refract and reflect that light brilliantly in multiple directions. It's like we have an opportunity to be transmitters during the solstice, because, like you said, there's an increase in that radiance of that solar energy coming into the planet for those of us in the northern hemisphere. So it's an opportunity to amplify the potency of the sun and really serve as that crystallized consciousness. And so as a result, our sincere prayer, or our crystalline intentions, have more power than the effects of an atomic bomb, right? Equal to
Absolutely.
and beyond on the positive scale of what we really want to amplify right now in the face of all these other miniature atomic instances and of
Mhm.
violence and contrast and conflict,
Mhm.
that people are being affected by. The many
Yes.
innocent people are being affected by, and the planet Earth is being affected and impacted by.
Yeah.
So the more of us light beings, electromagnetic, conscious, embodiments and whatever we might call ourselves, the more of us that can be activated and attuned to holding that frequency of restoration, regeneration, abundance, and prosperity for all, love for all life. That's the frequency right now that we want to really amplify out there through
Yes.
the web of life and all the creative energy. So,
Great answer. Let's circle back to talking about preparation. And you mentioned fasting. I like to spend this time with meditation and prayer. So I'll probably be holding something um, for that. And especially since you mentioned how one intention or one positive prayer is more powerful than atomic bomb. So we will be doing definitely focusing our attention and crystallizing it for that day. But what about something someone asked me about, like the Agnihotra, which I know
mm,
is something that you practice, and that is something a ritual that harnesses the sun's energy. Would
yes.
that be something beneficial to do on the summer solstice?
Absolutely. I mean, I recommend anybody do that every day if you can. I mean, it is
Okay.
definitely a practice and a discipline
Hmm.
to, in a way, perfect the science of the Agnihotra. It takes commitment,
Hmm.
and that is really only met by performing the fire at sunrise and sunset every day
Okay.
consistently. But certainly, it would be beneficial. Even doing it once has its own benefit.
Hmm.
But the idea, the compounding effect of doing it consistently will only strengthen that field of energy where the fire is performed.
Okay.
And at the same time, certainly anybody, even if they're just beginning or only have the opportunity to do it once,
Hmm.
very seldom, certainly doing it on the solstice of any days is a great day to do it, because it does reflect or mirror the effect of the sun. So if people are interested to learn more about Agnihotra, I invite them to visit agnihotra.org, A
Okay.
G N
I'm
I
gonna put it in the chat. So
H
it's
O T. Mm-hmm.
AGNIHOTRA.
Yep. .org. That's a great resource for information and materials to perform Agnihotra. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's absolutely a wonderful practice to perform on any day, but certainly, especially on the solstices or equinoxes, on those significant natural time markers. Um, but certainly, it's a wonderful exercise of bringing balance to your immediate space, whether it's the home or the office or your local community, the park. Its effects can be felt within a mile radius of the pyramid where it is performed. I think it's very interesting that it is a practice taking place in a pyramidal structure. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, I'm also very interested in the cultures that are of the pyramid builders and those architects
Mm-hmm.
and designers and scientists,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
artists and artisans and
Artisans. Uh-huh.
practitioners and healers, and agents of transformation. That these are our sciences. And so one of the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful things about right now is there is a renaissance among people who are moving beyond the dominant narrative, right? That are
Mm-hmm.
beginning to move to the rhythm of their own drummer within and trust their consciousness and their
Mm-hmm.
intuition and explore their creativity, explore their purpose,
Yeah.
question themselves, get to know themselves. And as a result, they're bringing out gifts in abundance that they're receiving from the ancestors, they're receiving from the star beings, they're
Mm-hmm.
receiving from the earth. And so, in light of this, we're in a renaissance where this is only really going to increase as we also see what appears to be the destabilization of the material world also increase.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is why I want to go back to the fact that I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and it won't be the last, but it's certainly in the sequence of events, a time to begin to hold the intention of magnifying and magnetizing, better
Mm-hmm.
said, your own tribe, your group of folks
Mm-hmm.
who are on the same frequency as you, and
Mm-hmm.
beginning to deliberately move into community. And this is like I'm saying, we're in the process
Absolutely.
of beginning to initiate that now in many ways around the world.
Yeah. It's happening. Yes.
It's happening very much, and it's only going to increase.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to increase increasingly. prove to be a blueprint for the future. And we're going to, emerge with solutions we didn't even know we had.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it will come from listening and understanding the sciences and technologies of our indigenous relatives, as my
Mm-hmm.
elder Audrey Scott Williams calls it, indigitech, the indigitech of
Mm-hmm.
original peoples, as well as the future technologies that are coming through energetically, etherically, across the transmissions and the waves of consciousness. Because each of us are transmitters. We're like little batteries. We're transmitters. We're
Yes.
receivers. And so when we deliberately tune in and we ask the right questions, we're given, the knowledge that we may need at any given moment or for any particular purpose, particularly when our intention is to be of service to the greater good. And that's part of what we want to use the period of fasting as we enter into the solstice to
Mm-hmm.
also remind ourselves of, is that we're here to serve. And so we get a chance to allow that energy to come to and through us, that we can be of greater stewardship or service for whatever is ours to do. We're each here for magnanimous purposes. And it's beautiful that we're in also a time of illuminating ourselves to what that purpose actually is.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Wow, it's powerful. So, thank you so much for being a guest on the show and for sharing this wonderful information. Not only is it good for us, but it's also good for the planet. And I like how you said being practicing being agents of change,
Mm,
finding our tribes, and I think we're all starting to come together and find our cosmic families.
that's right. Your soul tribe, SOL,
Soul tribe.
like
Yeah.
your soul and your SOUL,
Yes.
the word sound is the same thing,
Hmm.
and so it really represents consciousness. So thank you so much for
Thank
inviting me to
you.
share in this preparation. I'm going to take the evening and tune in with my family and really
Okay.
enjoy the next few days in preparation, because it is an auspicious window. And I just want to really, for anybody out there who is, seeking some inner perspective and
Hmm.
guidance, this is a
Hmm.
wonderful time to tune in,
Hmm.
because that illumination of the solar energy will be very, very helpful. All we need to really do is ask and then be available to receive the answers that we're seeking.
Mm.
Just be receptive, and by cleansing and fasting, that also improves our receptivity, that we can be a more clear vessel to receive the answers and make discernments as well where we may need to. So,
It's powerful. Good. And one more thing, if you could share with them how, well, not just them, me myself too, because share about the calendar, the 13-month,
yeah.
28-day account, where we can purchase or order that.
Right. I invite people to visit 13 months, 28 days.info. That's again 13 months, 28 days.info. And at that website, you can download the current year calendar. We're wrapping up the year of yes, the yellow electric seed year, as it's called. And this is the 34th year into the new time. We're wrapping that up. We're entering the cosmic moon just in about 10 days. So we'll be entering the last moon of this current year of
And
the
the
yellow
new
electric
year
seed.
after the yellow electric seed is what? What's the
We
new
move
year?
into the red self existing moon year.
Oh, wow.
The red
Okay.
self existing moon, which is all about definition and form and the universal water and flow and purification. So it's going to be, I hear the alarm outdoors going off at that one, but it's going to be a year to truly avail ourselves to the flow and to, as a result, to purify, because it's going to be moving through us. And it's an opportunity to also allow those things which aren't a part of our future trajectory to fall away.
Okay, so you said it's called the red.
Red self existing moon year. Yep. And for materials concerning natural time, I want to give a shout out to a couple of other resources that we love to promote. And that is lawoftime.org. That's the
I'm gonna
official
put that. Wait a minute.
yeah,
The lawtime.org.
lawoftime.org, which is the official website for the Foundation for the Law of Time. They are the progenitors of the modern day 13 moon calendar change peace movement, which largely with my work of 13 Moons, 28 Days is helping to advance an awareness of why that's important. But we certainly pay homage to Jose Arguelles and Loidina Arguelles, who are the progenitors of that, and Stephanie South, who currently heads up the Foundation for the Law of Time and the entire team there. And then our friends also at 13moon.com, Eden, Sky, Bob Sky, Sky Time Publishing. They produce a wonderful 13 Moon calendar that people can find for purchase. The materials at our website are there for free, just kind of a download. It's more of an educational thing. We're not doing it as a commercial product at the moment, but we're very interested to advance the awareness of that information. But we like to support the other groups that are, the
It's
forward.
13moon.com, and so the lawoftime.org and
Yes,
13 months 28 days.info for the calendar. Okay.
exactly. And people
Yeah, I
can
think
find.
I have the digital one, but I would like to have a hard copy this time
And
around.
yeah, Law of Time has wonderful, wonderful like pocket calendar versions. There are a lot of folks around the world. I mean, believe it or not, 34 years in, there are a lot of people around the world who observe the 13 moon calendar every day, like
Mm-hmm.
myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of wonderful resources out there to support people in their exploration of what natural time is.
Yes.
And I'm always happy to communicate with people about that
Mm-hmm.
subject anytime. And they can also reach me on Instagram and at Facebook with just my name, Mikuak Rai,
Mm-hmm.
as they see on the screen right there too. But they can find
Mm-hmm.
me at Instagram and Facebook there with any questions regarding calendar
Y'all
change.
put at, it's okay to share it in the chat at
Sure,
McCoy
yeah,
Ray.
please, absolutely, thank you, absolutely.
And what
And
was the other one?
at Instagram and Facebook, it's at Mikuak Rai, Mikuakrai. It's both of those, and at the Harmonic Factor for folks that do want to get a little bit more into the technical side of the math and the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a platform, an educational platform called the Harmonic Factor, and I invite people to visit us at our official Facebook page for that, which is Harmonic Convergence 2028. And people can find out more about what the 2028 value is, why that year in particular. But I will say this in closing: the next 5 years are going to be definitive, tremendously definitive, because the static of the old material dominated themed world is really not going to be able to hold the frequency for where Earth is ascending to.
Mm-hmm.
The planet as a species is evolving. And so, we're going to see a lot of bifurcation or separation between those among humanity who are evolving with Earth and those who are opting to, um, ignore
Mm-hmm.
some of the clear signs that are occurring, for whatever reason. It's
Right.
understandable. And ultimately, what matters is love all,
Mm-hmm.
period. Love all, nothing less. Love
Love
all,
life.
love life, love all. And all means all, you know, because, everything has a cause effect. And
Yes.
so we're at a time of neutralizing any of the undesirable effects to whatever degree we can. And that requires us to really, truly love all.
Yes,
In
indeed.
Lakesh,
I
you
like
know,
it.
I
Yes.
am another you. And that goes with everyone at any time.
Mhm.
So, but
Okay.
thank you again. It's a real
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you for blessing us with this information. It's such it's so useful and so helpful, as you said, as we go into this new time period on the planet. And it's just so beneficial to awaken back to observing the natural cycles and living in that time and frequency.
Mm, hallelujah. Right
Good
on.
things. All right.
All
Peace
right.
and love, everyone out there.